YouTube. Hello, everybody out there. Welcome to another week in space. Let me pull up my notes. And just come on in, get yourself comfortable, settle on down. We're going to talk about some exciting news in the celestial spheres this week. We have some Mercury action going on. We have Mercury leaving their shadow today. That happened early this morning. We have the Sun coming into conjunct Uranus, and then that's happening today as well. And then they will go on to conjunct Jupiter on Saturday, I believe. Yep, on Saturday the 18th, which is sort of bookending our week with a reactivation of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which we experienced collectively on April the 20th of this year. We got some Venusian action, a little bit of Venus going on today, and then also rounding out the week, Venus will be conjunct Uranus as well, which is giving us a different vibe of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and a different, maybe like more embodied feeling of what that Uranian energy feels like. Also, Venus is the ruler of Taurus, where Uranus is currently mixing stuff up. So that is Uranus getting to get in touch with the ruler of the sign that they are occupying. So a bunch of kind of wild Uranian energy this week, which is exciting and sometimes destabilizing. Uranus is the planet of liberation and freedom and authenticity. And sometimes that sense of liberation and freedom comes a little more quickly than we anticipate or than we would like. I think about Uranus is an outer planet, right? And the outer planets are pretty distant from us. And so, we might have Uranus sort of looking down from way out there, being like, you know what I need for this person? Yeah, I need them to find a new house. I'm just going to set their house on fire, right? And in the like real embodied 3D Saturnian reality that we're living in, we're like, what? Like, why did you do that? That was not helpful. That's not what I actually wanted here. And Uranus is like, well, you got out of that shitty living situation, so now you're free, right? So Uranus can also be a little traumatizing. It can be too much, too fast, too soon, which can be really destabilizing to our Saturnian, right, earthbound nervous systems when Uranus just throws that bolt of lightning and it liberates us. But, being liberated from a protective shell, right, liberating us from what is known or what is comfortable might be a little destabilizing to the nervous system and might be a little traumatic. And so, while I think that Uranus is very helpful, right? And again, we're talking outer planets, so we're talking the collective, larger systems that are impacting us as individuals. It also can be destabilizing. It also, that liberation may rush in a little quickly, that forcing us into that authentic state might rush in a little quickly. And this is sort of what happens in your mid 40s. And I might be approaching this depending on how old I actually am, when we get the Uranus opposition, right? Which is Uranus. This happens between 42, 44, when Uranus is opposing its natal place in the chart. And so we have this opposition of Uranus in transit to the natal Uranus that's over here. And, this, like, all of a sudden, all of this energy comes online, like, oh my God, my life is halfway over. What have I done? Who am I? What am I, what is my purpose? And this is what is collectively known in the West as the midlife crisis, where people start fretting about, oh my God, like I have just worked to work at this company my entire life, and I've never done anything that felt really right for me. And people can, respond to this by buying a sports car and trying to date somebody 20 years younger than them, trying to cling to their lost youth, or they might quit their job and throw away their shoes and walk across Europe, right? People respond to this in all manner of ways, but what this is that sense of authenticity coming online and being like, what am I doing? Right? Am I living an authentic life? Am I really free, or have I really sacrificed so much of myself to a Saturnian system that I am not going to do any of the things that I feel called to in this life? And that can bring up a crisis in an individual. We also get the square around 21. Right, which is when people, feel liberated from family systems. They, in America, they get, oh yeah, Jeff says people become astrologers, right? Yeah, that's a great way of, connecting in with Uranus opposition, and Uranus is associated with astrology. Um, and yeah, that sense of like, I need to be in touch with my authentic self. I want something to help to liberate me from the constraints of 3D reality, or what I have been told, or societal systems. Saturn is a social planet, right? So it deals a lot with society and the values that society tells us we need to live by. And Uranus comes in and is like, is that true? Right? What are your values? And I think that this is even accentuated with Uranus's transit through Taurus, which is a planet, which is a sign associated with resources and values, which we're going to circle back around to as we traverse this labyrinth today. Um, we also get the Uranus square at about 21, right? Which is when in America we come of age, right? Because we can legally drink in bars. And so we get this kind of like Uranian eruption of, freedom, of partying, of alcohol, and substances, which, no judgment, but I think that it has a lot to do with, I am making my own choices. I am an adult now. And because I think that we've lost a lot of the coming of age rituals in America. I can't speak for any place else, but the right to drink in a bar becomes a coming of age ritual. It's like, you are an adult now, you can go get hammered legally, right? You don't need one of your friends with a fake ID to buy this for you anymore. You are an adult, good luck, bless you. And so that's the Uranus square, right? This sense of like, I am independent, I am a liberated individual. The sort of full Uranus cycle is about 84 years, which is when we, that is about the average of a human lifespan, right? And so that's when we become liberated from the Saturnian structure that we inhabit, just a way of thinking about Uranus as a planet of liberation and freedom and authenticity, and how that shows up in a human lifespan, and our kind of embodied relationship to it. And so, yeah, I'm kind of woke up a little under the weather today, didn't really have time to prepare, and not really sure what we're going to talk about, but we're just going to meander. One of the framing thoughts that I have for this discussion today is talking about Taurus, right? Talking about Taurus because, let me just go through some of our transits of the week. The big stuff that's happening is we have the Sun in Taurus conjunct Uranus at 23 degrees and 6 arc minutes in the sign of the bull. This is happening today, Monday, May the 13th. And then to close out the week, we have the Sun conjunct Jupiter at 28 degrees and 18 minutes of Taurus on Saturday the 18th. And that same day, we are getting Venus conjunct Uranus. And so that's also happening at 23 degrees and 24 arc minutes of that fixed Earth sign. And so one of the ways that I thought about talking about this all today is to think about the Greek myth of King Minos, his wife Pasiphae, the hero Theseus, and their daughter Ariadne, and the Minotaur, their son, and the labyrinth. Because this is the kind of mythology that is associated with the sign of Taurus. And just looking at some different perspectives of the Minotaur and the labyrinth and the craftsperson Daedalus, and just sort of all of these characters and how this kind of myth can be embodied, and how we can consider these pretty big transits that we are experiencing this week um, through the mythology of Taurus and through this idea of the labyrinth. And now that I'm here, right, usually I like to prepare a bunch for these. I think it's my imposter syndrome that really kicks up when I have to do these live talks. And this week I didn't have an opportunity to. And, now I'm like, okay, we're just sort of traversing this labyrinth and kind of wandering into the center of this place. And hopefully we can find our way back out, which, I think is actually a great way of doing an astrology reading, right? I'm sort of suspect of the model of like, I am the all-powerful magic person who tells you about yourself. I'm much more interested in being like, I don't know. Where do you want to go? Okay, like we're going to wander into this labyrinth together, and we're going to get to the center, hopefully, and find something that's of value here. And then we will hopefully meander our way out and, come out changed through this experience of traversing this kind of internal world together. And I think that we get this through mythology. I think mythology is this thread that we can follow as we wander in through the labyrinth. So that's sort of the way that I've been thinking about framing this, and we're just going to see how it goes. Maybe we'll get lost, maybe we'll get devoured by the Minotaur, maybe we'll find some secret passageways and end up someplace totally different, or maybe we'll just come out together and be changed through this collective experience. So before we as we like are as we are starting to meander our way into the labyrinth, let's talk about Mercury for a second, because today, Monday, May the 13th, Mercury leaves their shadow, which is great because Mercury is the guide, right? And so it's always nice to have the guide online when we are starting a quest like this. So for those of you who don't know, like the word like Mercury shadow phase is thrown around a lot. But what it means is Mercury shadow is the points when Mercury is direct that it hits. Sorry, how do I explain this? The shadow phase is the places that Mercury has retrograded over, right? And so I'll just, I don't know if I explained that right, but let me put it like this. So Mercury entered their shadow on March 18th at 15 degrees and 59 arc minutes of Aries. And then they stationed retrograde on April 1st at 27 degrees and 13 minutes. And so um, then they stationed direct on April 25th at 15 degrees and 59 arc minutes of Aries. So the shadow phase is that space that Mercury's direct, they move up to 27 degrees, they station retrograde, they go back to 15 degrees, right? And so as Mercury is moving through the sign of Aries and hitting that 15-degree mark, right? Still moving direct, that's their shadow, because that's the space in space that will be gone back over when Mercury is retrograde. They hit that 27-degree mark, they turn retrograde, they go back, right? So they're recovering all that ground back to 15 degrees. And then they station direct, and then they're moving forward, right? Covering that ground again. And then today, early this morning, 2:01 a.m. Pacific time, making that 5:01 in the a.m. Eastern time, Mercury hit that 27 degree and 13 arc minute mark, which means that now today, Mercury is moving forward in space into new territory that they have not yet covered, which is exciting because all from March all the way through April, Mercury has sort of been churning up and rechurning and rethinking and reconsidering and reimagining these Aries qualities of directness, of courage, of the quest, right? And questing and then being like, is that the right quest for me? And having to go back and rethink it and restart and then do it again. And then finally we are moving into some new territory with Mercury, right? So this means that new ideas are maybe coming to the surface. There's new conversations that can be had, right? There is the information that we have gathered through that whole time with Mercury's retrograde through Aries that we're like, okay, I've got some information here that now I can begin to process in a new way and orient in a new way and have new conversations, just as Mercury is about to move into Taurus, which happens on Wednesday, May the 15th. And so I just wanted to bring that in because I think it's important because April was like pretty fraught. There was a lot going on in Aries with the eclipses and Mercury's retrograde. And then there was the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. There's a whole lot of energy going on in April. And I think that information has not quite been processed yet because Mercury has sort of been churning it up and rethinking it. And now we're getting an opportunity to move forward, hopefully in a much more informed way, having really digested some of the stuff from that Mercury retrograde and rethought our pathway and reconsidered what we are questing for. All right. So, yeah, also today, May the 13th, we have the Sun in Taurus conjunct Uranus in Taurus. This is happening at 23 degrees and 6 arc minutes of the fixed Earth sign. And so this is where the story of Taurus comes in. And I feel like I've told this a couple times already, but it's why not, right? I think that this is up right now. And so we have King Minos, right, who wants to be the ruler of Crete. And he is in competition to be the ruler. And he's like, you know what would make me the ruler? If I had a beautiful white bull from the god Poseidon. And so he prays and he prays and he's like, yo, Poseidon, hook a brother up, send me a beautiful white bull so I can prove my divine right of kingship and I can rule Crete. And, you send me this bull. It's just a short-term loan. I will sacrifice it and give it right back to you. And Poseidon's like, okay, cool. Like, sure, no problem. As long as you sacrifice it and give it right back to me. Don't screw around on this one. And so Poseidon sends this white bull, and King Minos is like, "Oh my God, that is the most beautiful creature that I have ever seen." You know what? You know what? I don't know if he'll notice if I just sacrifice this other white bull, right? So Minos becomes king, right? Everybody's like, "Oh my God, what an amazing bull you have! You should be the king." And Minos is like, "That's right." And so decides to keep this amazing white bull, this divine gift from the gods, and sacrifice something else, right? Sacrifice one of his most prized bulls from his stable. And Poseidon is not amused, right? Poseidon is not fooled. Poseidon is not amused. Poseidon is God, and it's really hard to trick the gods. There are cases of it, but Minos did not have that skill and ability. And so Poseidon is like, oh, hell no, right? And so calls up Aphrodite and is like, hey, Aphrodite, this dude's jerking me around. Will you put a spell on his wife to fall madly in love with that white bull that I sent? And Aphrodite's like, I love some mischief, right? Because this is one of the things that Aphrodite loves to do is inspire mortals with a frenzy, right? The frenzy of love. And if you've ever, that is like the Cupid arrow moment, right? And one of the things that Aphrodite really likes is this kind of chaos that is created by attraction. The chaos that is created by love, and one of like the most spiteful things that Aphrodite does is makes mortals fall in love with things that are inappropriate for them to fall in love with. And to get back at King Minos for his covetousness, right, and his reneging on his deal, um, Aphrodite inspires Pasiphae, Minos's wife, um, and makes her fall madly in love with this white bull. And Pasiphae is just like, oh my God, I don't know what's come over me, but like I'm in love with this. And so she calls up Daedalus, who is the master craftsperson on Crete, who is a genius and a scientist and a Renaissance man, artist and inventor, much like Leonardo da Vinci. And she's like, "Yo, I gotta get with this bull. Make me something so that I can be with this object of my desire." And Daedalus is like, "That's weird, but you're the boss, okay?" And he makes a structure, a cow structure for Pasiphae to enter into so that the bull can enter into her. And 9 months later, she gives birth to a little baby minotaur, which has the body of a human and the head of a bull. And she is shocked, and Minos is horrified. And so they call up Daedalus and they're like, "Yo, we got to do something with our kid here. I mean, it's our kid, we can't get rid of it, but it can't be in the world. This is too shameful, this is too embarrassing." And so Daedalus constructs the labyrinth, and they put the Minotaur in the center of the labyrinth. And then every 9 years they get seven well, they get 14 Athenian children, right? Seven boys, seven girls that they send into the labyrinth to feed the Minotaur. And there is peace in the kingdom, and everything's all good. And just like once in a while, you hear screams coming from the labyrinth over there, and you're like, "Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing. Just turn up the music a little bit." Right. And I think that this is a piece of the Taurus energy, right? The Taurus energy is like, no, things are good, right? I like things simple. I like things normal. I like good food. I like good wine. And like, oh, you're hearing screams from the labyrinth over there? Don't worry about that. Band, play on, right? And and that's the Taurus Scorpio axis, right? The Scorpio is the like screaming from the center of the labyrinth, and the Taurus is the like, oh, just turn up the music and another round, waiter. And so this is, I think this is relevant at this moment, right? Because one of the things that I am witnessing on the socials, right, and in the media and on the social media, this backlash against the Met Gala, right? I don't know if y'all have heard about this, but the Met Gala, which happened on, I believe, May 6th, so about a week ago, happened the same day as the invasion of Rafah. Um, and there's like a sort of cognitive dissonance between pretty horrific war and people at a $75,000 a ticket charity event in New York who are wearing like extravagant costumes. And I think that there's a lot of feelings in the world around consolidation of power, consolidation of wealth. Yeah, Jeff saying like comparing the Met Gala to the Hunger Games, which I think is pretty appropriate, right? There's not just the cognitive dissonance of the war in Gaza, and the atrocities that are happening there, but also what's happening in America and I think around the world with wealth inequality, right? Cost of living, inflation, people struggling to get by, Kellogg's cereal, or like Kellogg's being like, people, if food's too expensive, just eat cereal for dinner, right? This sort of disconnect. And I think that this is also intensified by one of the presenters of the Met Gala, uh, singing along to "Let Them Eat Cake," which is I guess a TikTok sound, but just like, very poor taste. Right, and we have maybe the like Hunger Games of the Met Gala going on, right? In this Taurus, like fine clothing, fine food, right? Good company, nice uh lighting. Um, Okay, yeah. Natalie saying The Hunger Games was written after the author saw images of war interspersed with celebrity worship on TV. Right. And so, yeah, the serpent eats its tail here, and we're sort of coming back full circle to this, and the Met Gala is maybe this moment where the kind of like Taurian vibe of like wealth and security and stability, which is being sort of propped up as like celebrity worship in a lot of ways, is in a opposition, right, to the maybe more Scorpio realities that people are living in, which is a lot about survival. Right. How am I going to survive? How am I going to make ends meet? And then, the war in Gaza and the invasion of Rafah, and like watching, death live streamed kind of 24/7. And I think that cognitive dissonance is really hard to hold, and is really upsetting when we see systems in society falling apart in a lot of ways, and then the people at the upper echelon just being like, let them eat cake, it's great, I love it. And so the sort of backlash to this has been a lot of these celebrities being blocked by people, in sort of a campaign to be blocking celebrities, which I think is interesting. And I have some feelings about. Maybe we'll get into them in a moment, but this also kind of dovetails with another transit that we're receiving today. I mean, I think it's all, the gestalt, right, of this moment, but I can also see this as like we have Saturn in Pisces sextiling Venus and Taurus, right? So Saturn is the restriction, constriction, right? Elimination in some ways, right? And Venus is values, right, and relationships. And so the sextile, right, thinking about like, what are meaningful relationships, and is my relationship with a celebrity meaningful, right? Another way to think about this is, what's a celebrity going to do for me, right? And I think that this has also been sort of the issue, is like, you people up here have this platform where you can do a lot of good, and what are you doing with it, right? And I just see you kind of like flaunting your wealth. And I think that I think there are similarities between this time period. uh how do I want to say this? I see like a parallel between like French aristocracy and the feelings of the proletariat during the French Revolution, and what's happening now. And this like idea of blocking celebrities is like thought of as the digitine digitine, like the digital guillotine, which is maybe a much more humane way. But coming back into this Uranian solar moment. And sorry, I'm going to be all over the place as we traverse this labyrinth, right? We have this kind of like Uranian energy of liberation, right? This Uranian energy of breakdown and breakthrough, which is really potent and really powerful. And I think we are seeing really crop up in student protests, in the blocking of celebrities, in, the unrest that a lot of people are feeling around the allocation of resources. Right. Taurus again is about values and resources. It's about the experience of the sensual world. It's about feeling good. It's about feeling safety. And it's about which resources we can kind of marshal around ourselves to create that feeling of safety, right? To have that simple feeling of like, it's all good, right? That is what Taurus is. It's all good in this moment, right? And then Scorpio, the opposition, is like, no, it's not. No, it's not. I might die, right? Oh God, what about that thing, right? And then Taurus is like, no, it's good, right? Oh, I've got my coffee mug, right? I've got my tea mug. It's all good. I have this thing. Makes it okay, right? And I think that that is um that axis, right? The I am regular, like my nervous system is regulated. I am feeling good. I have what I need to survive. And then that fear of like, what if I don't? What if it's not okay? This other thing could happen. And I think it is that these things relate to each other, and this is how, right? I think where Taurus gets out of alignment is the hoarding, right? And this is Minos with the bull is hoarding this bull because he's like, I need this, right? This is my divine right for rulership, and this is my thing that makes me feel beautiful, right? And like, I need this. And then that gets twisted into Pasiphae being like, oh my God, I'm in love with this, right? I need to mate with it. I need to have this thing, right? And then that gets twisted even further into the Minotaur, which is the product of this, right? Which is this beast that has lost touch with that human awareness, right? So we get this kind of clinging to resource, right? And the need to create safety through hoarding, which can turn into a monster, right? And that monster gets shoved away into the center of the labyrinth, and we're like, nah, that's good. We're all good here, right? Everything's fine. Oh, just turn up the music, right? Meanwhile, bombs are dropping. And I think that we're at this point where the screams in the labyrinth are too loud, right, to drown out with celebrity and status, and to watch other people flaunting their wealth and being like, oh, maybe I'll get a little piece of that, right? And so this is where the hero comes in, Theseus, right, who is one of the Athenian youths, who is the son of the king and is sent to Crete. He volunteers to go to Crete and is like, oh, I heard there's some heroing to do. I'm on it, Dad. Right? And goes to Crete. And immediately, the daughter of Minos and Pasiphae, the sister of the uh, the Minotaur, Ariadne, falls in love with Theseus. And she's like, oh man, okay, like this dude's cool, right? And I really do not want to see him ripped to shreds by my brother who is hid in the labyrinth. So let me see if I can help this dude out. And she goes and talks to Daedalus, right, who is not on anyone's side. Daedalus is kind of on the side of craft and technology and problem solving, which I think is pretty respectable, and I think this is also like part of the Uranian influence here, right? And I think that we can see how these planets and these archetypes show up in all of these characters. And I think this is an important way of interpreting mythology and also interpreting dream, right? And I think that there's similar space here, that it's not like, oh, it is this one thing in this one place and that's how it always is. It's always like we are kind of like traversing the labyrinth and meeting these characters and being like, how are you showing up, right? And what if we shift a little bit? How do you show up here? Right? What else could this be? How do we dream this forward? How can we like look at this from a different angle? And so, we can think about the Minotaur as this force that is stuck in the center of the labyrinth that needs to be liberated in some way, right? We can also see Uranus as Daedalus, who is the technology, right? That both constructed the system to imprison and keep the thing inside, and also gives the clue and the hints in the technology to release it, right? Daedalus also built the structure, the hollow cow that created this in the first place, right? And so, there's multiple layers that we can think about this, and we can think about this as AI, blah blah blah, or social media, right? The technologies that have gotten us to this point, and what is the technology that gets us out is a ball of string, a ball of cotton string, right? The most simple, right? It's not like this constructed cow. It's not this intricate labyrinth. It is just a ball of thread, right? And so um, Theseus, right, ties one end of the thread to the end of the labyrinth, right, the entranceway, and then takes the ball and weaves it through, but he can find his way out again, right, and is able to sort of feel his way along the walls, as we're doing here in this talk, and seeing seeing where this gets us, going deeper and deeper into the center of the labyrinth. And so I think the idea of the labyrinth is also really interesting. It is this kind of maze with one passageway, right? There's you know, and the labyrinth is used now for spiritual practice. They're in churches, right? They're out in nature. To walk a labyrinth is a really interesting process, right? Of sort of entering in and finding the center, right? And finding the center in ourselves through this like external ritual practice, and then leaving, right? By the same way that we come in, having been changed through this process. And it's a way of experiencing walking meditation. And so, to think about this in a psychological level, right, we have this minotaur, this creature, this beast, who is hidden, right, who is this, like, maybe the embodiment of the familial shame, right, the cultural shame, that is hidden at the center of this labyrinth, that the hero is then questing to go and meet, to come into connection with, you know. And the Minotaur has been painted in a pretty bad light, right? It is thought of as this monster, you know, and maybe it is, right? Um, yeah, Gina Maria is saying that the path of the labyrinth is like the brain, and very much is, and I think that the walking of the labyrinth, right, and the entering in and finding the center and finding the Minotaur, right, is very much like doing our inner work and going on this inner journey into the self, into this like thing that is destabilizing. And um the Minotaur is a symbol of passion gone wild, right? It is that like craving, that desire for more, more, more. And this is one of the things that the Greeks were afraid of with the chimera, the half human, half animals. And there is also this issue with the centaur, right? There's a huge war in Greek mythology where the centaurs are pretty much banished, right? Except for the good centaurs like Chiron, right? Who are like more human-like, and they're depicted with human legs and just the back half as a horse, right? And so they're sort of tolerated because the lower half is animal, but the upper half is human and logical, right? Greeks were really into logic, whereas, the half animal, half humans are, this sort of bridging between the animalistic and instinctual nature, which I think the Greeks, and especially the later Greeks, were trying to weed out and eradicate. And the Minotaur is a symbol of this is all bad, right? Because it has the sexual organs of a human, right? But the desires of an animal, right? And it has shut off any kind of frontal cortex, right? Logical thinking, social thinking, and is just in the animalistic nature, right? And I think that this is desire that has run amok, right? And then has been repressed and repressed and repressed. And so with the sun conjunct Uranus and, coming back around to it, we have this moment where we're getting some illumination on this kind of revolutionary energy, or this thing that has been suppressed and repressed, right? And this might be desires, this might be pleasure, this might be things that we are shamed about, right? That we hold shame about, that has been put in the center of the labyrinth in ourselves or in society, right? And as the sun, or the heroic self, finds its way to the center of the labyrinth and illuminates, right, that monster, right, that thing that has been called a monster, it brings it to light. There is new energy that comes into the system. And the question here is, what do we do with this, right? And Theseus, the hero, right, kills the Minotaur. But I don't know if that is the appropriate response, because what if the Minotaur is a connection to a more earth-based system, right? What if the Minotaur is the connection to the body and to the self? Right. What if the Minotaur is the connection to pleasure and the way that pleasure can be shared collectively, right? Instead of these more hierarchical systems of like King Minos, right? Who is the King Holdfast, who then has like pushed away the collective desire into the center of the labyrinth, right? And so, um, oh, thank you, Jeff. I know you always like talking about Neptune, and I feel like Neptune is so lit, so nebulous. Um, and I think uh Jeff is asking about Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces from now until Labor Day. And I was going to start researching Neptune in the next coming weeks. I've still been on this Uranus Jupiter tip, but the 29th degree is the like spooky aneretic degree, right? Where all of this energy becomes consolidated. All of this Oh, yeah. Jeff is saying Neptune is behind the scenes, which is like kind of how I experience it. But yeah, he feels it a lot in what I'm saying. And you know what? I'm going through my Neptune square right now, right? So I think it is kind of like permeating everything that's happening with me. And I think Neptune is like the fantasy, right? Being lost in a fantasy. And I think Neptune is also uh looking like the redeemer savior complex, right? Looking for somebody to save us, or it's being a martyr, right? And I think just to like bring it into the moment, right, with this like the celebrity in the Met Gala, right? Neptune is celebrity, right? It is the big screen, it is the image of like wealth and celebrity on the big screen that we're like, oh my God, I aspire to that, where we're maybe negating the realities of our moment. And I think this is a lot of what happens in capitalism, is the kind of Neptunian ideal that like hard work will save you, right? Or that you can aspire to this, you can attain this. Look at the celebrity happening all around you, the glitz and the glitter and the illusion. Neptune is this glamour, right? And like a glamour spell where we're like, oh my God, I'm sort of lost in the lights and the wine, and it's so beautiful, and I want to be a part of that. And if I just watch it or follow them or, know a lot about them, maybe that will allow me to feel a part of this. Right. Also, I think it is this kind of martyr complex, which is the other side of this, is the celebrity, the Neptune, when you're like, actually, like this is some bullshit. They're like, oh no, like not me, not me, right? I just got this for free, like I didn't even mean to, right? Oh my God, I'm working so hard to entertain you. And so I think that Neptune at the critical aneretic degree of of um of Pisces is really bringing up this like desire to like surrender to mass media, to that like collective dream of celebrity. And I think as Neptune moves into Aries, into a sense of like individuality, right, and a more like claiming that power of Neptune for the self, I think that our relationship to celebrity is going to change. um I have not done enough research about Neptune into Aries to speak on it intelligently yet. But another way of thinking about this is the whole sort of story of the Minotaur starts with Neptune, right? Poseidon bringing this bull, right? And, I think that there is a very Neptunian quality of getting lost in love, right? Lost in attraction, lost from the, actually what's happening into this desire to be safe, right? Desire to hold power, desire to, kind of be swept away in some senses, right? The desire to live in the fantasy is, I think, what I'm trying to get at. Um, um, so I want to I know that I haven't really like touched on a lot of the astrology, um, but let's keep it moving. And I think I'll try and wrap in the rest of the story of the Minotaur in a moment. So Wednesday, May the 15th, we have Mercury moving into Taurus, like accentuating the sort of Taurus pileup, right? Mercury kind of gaining new ground, right? Moving into a new sign. And then on Friday, they will square Pluto, right? And so I think this is going to bring up the like that journey to the center of the labyrinth, because the following day we will have Venus conjunct Uranus and the Sun conjunct Jupiter. So I think that this sort of center of the labyrinth vibe is going to be really present in all of these kind of dynamics. With Mercury entering into Taurus, right? Mercury is cognition, Mercury is our thought process, right? Mercury is the prefrontal cortex, right? That allows us to sort of gather information and make informed decisions and be in communication about it. And as Mercury moves into Taurus, which is a fixed Earth sign, I like to think about this as receiving information from the soma, from the body. Right? What is the physical, what are the messages that we are receiving from the physical? You know, and I think that this is also accentuated by Mercury squaring Pluto, who is the lord of the underworld. So we are getting the unconscious, right? Messages and maybe challenging messages from the unconscious that are coming up, you know. And I think it's really important with the archetype of Taurus to recognize safety, to recognize pleasure, to be in touch with sensuality, right? I think that those are the key elements, and not to crave safety so much that we like construct a labyrinth around ourselves where we are just hidden in our like hoarded places. But, you know, with Mercury moving into Taurus, it's like, what is my body telling me, right? What is the earth telling me? How do I come into communication with the physical world? Right. We can think about Theseus kind of entering into the center of the labyrinth, right? And the feel of the thread, right? You know, the fear of entering into this unknown space and the smell, right, of like years of Athenian kids being killed in there, right? This kind of like horrific place. And this is Mercury square Pluto, right? And how do we ground ourselves as we're entering into this unknown territory, as we are winding our way into the depths of the unconscious? Maybe to think about like what that cotton thread feels like in your hand as you're unspooling it, right? And that thing that like tethers us to the known of the mouth of the labyrinth and to the safety, right? And to the kind of process of being in connection with the body. There's a podcast that I listened to the other day, Back from the Borderline, and I didn't listen to the whole thing because I haven't joined their Patreon yet, but they were making a connection between the labyrinth and the process of walking the labyrinth and the process of EMDR, which is a trauma therapy, which helps us to reprocess trauma, which is a moment that gets frozen in time, which has no beginning, middle, or end. And it's a EMDR helps us to reprocess trauma through bilateral stimulation, either eye movement moving back and forth, or sometimes you get buzzers, one hand and the other hand. And through that bilateral stimulation, it creates a mental space where we're able to go back into frozen memories and kind of reprocess them and digest them, right, in new ways. And what this person on this podcast was saying is that the walking of a labyrinth, right, which is a switchback, right, switching back and back and back, might create that bilateral stimulation that allows us to reprocess difficult or traumatic memories. Which I think is really interesting, right? And if we think about Theseus going into that dark center, and we can maybe think about this as Mercury entering into Taurus and then squaring off with Pluto, right? That dark center of the labyrinth, that like deep survival impulse, right? That has maybe been relegated to the unconscious, and the ways that we can process that through our physical experience, through the kind of switchback of the actual process of walking through the labyrinth. right? Or how we can help to create a container for these messages to come through the physical form, through our somatic awareness, through our connection to the earth, and to notice what is arising in the body, right? And how do we regulate the body, especially at this time where this Uranian energy is coming up and there's all of this injustice and there's all of this wealth inequality. And we were watching war live streamed, and we were watching the senseless killing of civilians that is happening, right? Constantly through these devices, through the labyrinth of these devices, and the nervous system activation that creates. At least it creates it in me. And to think about, to take a moment and be like, what am I feeling? Right? How do I come back into the body? What is my body telling me? What is my body telling me about the safety needs of this moment? How do I down regulate? Right? How do I co-regulate with nature, right? And I think that this is Mercury and Taurus as well, learning co-regulation through being in nature, right? Through our communication with the animal world, with the plant world, right? With the non-human world. And I think that is some of the wisdom of Taurus that it offers us. And so I want to just move on to Saturday, May the 18th, when we have Venus conjunct Uranus at 23 degrees and 24 arc minutes. And then also on Saturday, we have the Sun in Taurus conjunct Jupiter in Taurus at 28 degrees and 18 minutes. And then next week, next Saturday, Jupiter will move into Gemini. And we'll talk about that next week. But I wanted to sort of round this out with a maybe different perspective on the myth of the labyrinth. And the hero is Theseus, right? Who like goes into the center of the labyrinth and slays the Minotaur, right? Slays this non-human beast. But what if, and then Theseus takes Ariadne, right, who helped him, and brings her to Naxos, and has this dream where Athena comes to him and is like, you know what, like love is great and all, but you have a purpose, my son. Like, get up and ditch her, right? You need to abandon this woman right now. Right. And I think that's what Theseus wrote in his goodbye letter, right? Because he sneaks off before she wakes up and leaves her on Naxos. And, while on Naxos, Ariadne comes into contact with Dionysus, who is the earth god of ecstatic union, right? Uh, the kind of relationship to the divine through ecstatic dance, through theater, through wine, and it's really, as I understand it, the connection to the earth through ecstatic experience, right? Through sex, through wine, through theater, through dance, right? And through these trance moments where we lose the self and come into connection with the all, right? Dionysus is Jupiter's son, one of Zeus's sons, and is maybe favored, and I think is very much a god of the earth. And I see them as related to Osiris as well, right? These kind of vegetal gods, right, that go through these processes of death and rebirth. And so one of the ways that we can think about this story of the labyrinth, right, is we have this desire, right, desire of Minos to be king, right, and the coveting and the hoarding of the bull, which turns into a twisted desire of Pasiphae to mate with this bull, to possess this bull through desire and through love, right, through intimacy. And that produces the sort of twisted child of desire, the Minotaur, where the animal urges overtake human consciousness, and it becomes this sort of monster that is hidden away, that craves and needs to eat and to devour. And then Ariadne, the other child, right, the one who's maybe like kind of forgotten about because the Minotaur is the problem child, right? So Ariadne is like, oh, we got to go take care of your brother, like you'll be fine, right? And Ariadne sort of figures out a way to deal with this situation by reaching out to Daedalus, learning technology, right, to help out Theseus, who then slays the Minotaur, so releases that energy, that pent-up energy in the center, and then takes Ariadne to Naxos, where she comes into relation with a different type of pleasure, right? A pleasure that is related to the earth and to ecstatic communion with the divine through dance and celebration and the celebration of life. And so maybe the true hero of this story is Ariadne, right? Who liberates this desire from a like twisted thing that has been shamed and pushed away into like the depths of the unconscious. And she finds a way to liberate that and connect into healthy desire through the practice of dance, through the physical form, right? All of these kind of Venusian qualities, these Taurian qualities of connection with the earth and ecstatic relationship to nature, right? Ecstatic relationship to the body, right? The movement and dance and celebration, right? And coming into trance through the physical form so that we can transcend the physical form and come into relationship with the divine. And I see that as the sun conjunct Jupiter, right? This sort of and Venus conjunct Uranus as well, right? So I think on Saturday there is this possibility, right, of being able to tune into what brings us pleasure and how we can be in right relationship with our pleasure, right, in a way that we are not needing to hold or crave, right? The thing about like ecstatic experiences, there is no product, right? You cannot sell it. People try, right? And if you look through Instagram, you will find people trying to sell ecstatic experience, but that is you in relationship to your body and in relationship to the universe. You cannot commodify that, you cannot market it, you cannot sell it. This is something that like you need to experience as an individual, right? And this is coming back to Jeff's question, this is also Neptunian, right? This like I want to like transcend, you know. And I think that like Neptunian energy is surrounding all of this. But what is really important is like, how do we embody this feeling of ecstatic union, right? And how can we find ways of exercising and practicing the connection to the body as an instrument of the divine and a tool for ecstatic experience, you know? And how does this like also help us to break down the walls of that labyrinth, right? And what walls are also like really important, right? What walls like hold this desire in a safe place, right? And in what ways can we kind of let it spill out and come into connection with it beyond the kind of what we are told by society? And so, yeah, those are just some of my thoughts about the labyrinth. And I feel like we made it to the center, and I feel like maybe we followed the thread back out once again. But we're here now, and I really appreciate all y'all, and thanks for listening. I want to let y'all know then I have a couple things coming up on the AstroStar Live app, which is I'm an advisor on AstroStar Live, which is a pretty excellent astrological community with some pretty high-level astrologers who are dropping astro wisdom on a regular basis. And on Thursday, let's see here, Thursday, what day of the week is that? Thursday the 16th. Is that correct? Yeah, Thursday the 16th. I will be doing a talk on the astrology of fashion. And so thinking about how we can dress for success based on celestial influences and how we can use our practice of dressing ourselves and personal adornment, which are very Venusian and Taurian things, how we can use that to come into better communication and better relationship with the planets. Right. So, for example, Monday today is Moon Day, and the moon's colors are white and silver. Its metal is silver, and so I wear a gray hat, and got a gray shirt on. These are some of the ways that we can develop relationships with the planets by dressing in accordance with their colors and their energies. Um, and so I'll be doing a talk about that this coming Thursday, May 16th at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, making that 6 p.m. Pacific Time, making that 9 p.m. Eastern Time, only on the AstroStar Live app. And then, so if you're interested in that, I have a link in my bio. I'll put a link in my stories. I'll put links everywhere. But that's going to be a great talk, and will be some cool astro magic that can help come into relationship with the planetary energies, and helping us to build a relationship with the planets through the ways that we adorn ourselves. Also, I will be doing a talk with the brilliant Bear Hickman of Ursa Day Astrology. I believe that'll be Tuesday, the 21st. We're going to be talking about the Sagittarian full moon, which will be coming up on the 23rd. And that's also on AstroStar Live. I believe that's on at 7:30 Mountain Time, making that 6:30 Pacific Time and 9:30 Eastern Time. And yeah, so that's a couple things that I have coming up on the excellent AstroStar Live app. If you're interested, again, I have the link in my bio, and I'll be throwing a link in my stories where you can follow me and check that out. I also have a astrology themed radio show that comes out every Friday or Saturday. That just dropped. So if you wanted to get your astro wisdom in musical form, you can check it out. I will throw another link in my stories, or you can find that over on SoundCloud at Camp Wizard Camp, or through my Patreon at Camp Wizard Camp. And that, my friends, I think is all the astro weather that is fit to print. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I appreciate y'all. I hope you have a great week as we traverse the labyrinth of life together. Yeah, thank you all. Appreciate you. And I will see you next time, here every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, no, 11 a.m. Mountain time, 1 p.m. Eastern time on the AstroStar Live app. And sometimes I do this on Instagram as well. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye now.